Is that able to be seen? Yeah.
Yes, I think we've got that, yeah.
Okay, so my name is Nikki. I'm the advice manager for Clear Project. We're part of City Life Church. We work in Southampton. I know that Pete, the project manager of Clear, is also here as well. If you do have any questions, obviously, I'm more than willing to answer those too. So we are a project that works specifically with refugees, asylum seekers, and EU migrants in the city. And so Clear itself, we are part of City Life Church, and Clear stands for City Life Education and Action for Refugees, and we've been running since 2001. We are quite a small team of people, staff-wise, but we provide a lot of support to all the refugees, asylum seekers, and EU migrants in the city. And we're going to go into some of the information about that in a little while. We do that in a number of ways. The two main things we provide are English classes, so from very beginning, pre-entry classes, right up to entry 3, which then enables people to go on to college and study English at a higher level. We also provide an advice service, and most of what I'm going to talk about will focus on the advice service. We also have other provision that helps people with things like IT skills, assisting people into volunteering opportunities, and obviously we work in partnership with a number of other organisations in the city. The main aim of the work we do is to help the clients we're working with, particularly the asylum seekers who are new to the UK, as well as being new to Southampton, to understand and access the complex systems in this country, particularly around their accessing through their lack of understanding the English language or lack of understanding around systems and processes. We tend to have things quite complicated in this country, quite paper-based, and a lot of very in-depth forms that require information that a lot of our clients don't have necessarily the English language skills to be able to understand or respond to. In terms of Clear, so there are some numbers at the bottom of this slide that just give you the idea of the sort of scale of the work that we do. These numbers are from 2022 and cover the sort of advice sessions that we run, the English courses we deliver, and also the volunteers that work for us and the number of hours that they've done. So who we work with. So the main group of people that we work with are asylum seekers. And in Southampton itself, there are two what's known as contingency accommodation buildings. So this is temporary accommodation, large-scale accommodation provided in the city by the Home Office for adult male asylum seekers. They are sharing rooms, normally with unrelated adults, and they are provided with food in that accommodation, but then they only receive asylum support of about £8 to £9 a week. So there's currently probably about 200 and something people in that kind of accommodation in Southampton. We also have about another 180 people in what's known as dispersal accommodation. That's asylum seekers living in houses, shared houses in the city, and that's a mix of males and females, couples and families. And they tend to live in houses of multiple occupancy, where you might have, for example, 4 single women who have children sharing a house together and sharing facilities. They are provided with asylum support, about £45 a week, but then the rest of the things they will have to, they get from the Home Office in terms of their accommodation and the bills and things. We also have quite a lot of people in Southampton who are living with friends and family, because we have quite a large settled refugee population in the city. So people who are waiting for decisions on their asylum claim, but being supported by other people, not just the Home Office. The main countries we're seeing people coming from at the moment: Afghanistan, Iran, Eritrea. I've listed a few other countries there, including Russia, Namibia, but we currently have asylum seekers on our books from over 50 countries, including as far away as Vietnam and South America. So it's quite a wide range of people that we're working with in the city. Once people have been granted refugee status, we continue to work with them. As I've mentioned already, there's quite a large settled refugee population in the city, particularly places like Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Sudan, and lots of sub-Saharan African countries. We have a large settled population here. We continue to work with those people from the moment they get refugee status, and we will continue to see them up until they get British citizenship, which obviously can take a very long time. We will help them with a wide variety of support. Many of them continue to attend English classes with us. And we will also work with family members who come to join them under refugee family reunion, which is something we are seeing a lot more of at the moment. We also support the people in the city under the Homes for Ukraine scheme. We are contracted jointly with Citizens Advice Southampton to provide tailored welfare support to those in the city under the Homes for Ukraine scheme. We have a dedicated caseworker to do that piece of work. And we also see people who are here under the Ukraine family scheme as part of our sort of mainstream standard advice service. We do see some people who are here under the 2 Afghan schemes, but mainly they are receiving support from the council at the moment. A large group of people we do see is we see a lot of people who don't currently have immigration status or who've fallen out of the immigration system at some point. And we will help them obtain paperwork they need to start the process of getting back into the system, getting back into immigration status and being able to start to access other services. We also are funded to a small extent to support some work with EU citizens, those with settled or pre-settled status. And we receive quite a lot of volume of referrals from other statutory agencies who have people who have no immigration status or are in a very vulnerable state, to see if we can offer them any support around sorting out their immigration situation or other needs. And then just to mention as well that City Life Church, who we are part of, has a dedicated project to support people who've come over from Hong Kong who have British national overseas passports as well. To give you an idea of the nature of countries that we're supporting people, this is a map that shows the countries that our clients have come from to our weekly drop-in that was run in partnership with other organisations, including Southampton and Winchester Visitors Group. The larger the circle, the more clients or more attendances from that client group. But as you can see, there are particular hotspots of countries in certain parts of the world, particularly around the Middle East and North Africa area. But we have clients coming to see us and coming to access our drop-in from a significant number of countries, from many different continents in the world. And this is growing due to global instability and the wide range of issues facing countries overseas. In terms of the work that the advice service does at Clear, we see clients at our office every day, and we also run 2 drop-in sessions a week, one at a church in partnership with other organisations, and one at one of the contingency accommodation sites in the city. We have a very small team. Outside of our Ukraine team, we have 3 part-time caseworkers and then a group of volunteers. And between them, they managed to see they had over 1,600 interactions with clients in the quarter from July to September this year. And that is excluding any work we do to support people from Ukraine. That would be on top of this. This is specifically around refugees, asylum seekers, and EU citizens. The demand on our service has increased significantly over the last couple of years. And particularly post-pandemic, we are finding that demand sort of outstrips the capacity of the service quite regularly. And we see clients about a wide range of topics as well. The highest topic that we see people for is immigration. There is a significant lack of provision of immigration advice across the whole area, not specifically just in Southampton, but across the whole of the south of England. We are registered at OISC level 1 to provide immigration advice, and we work in partnership with some others who provide it at level 2. But immigration is our biggest topic that people come to see us about. If you don't have your immigration status sorted, you don't have your documents from the Home Office, it is very difficult to then do anything else in the UK. We also see a significant number of people regarding accessing benefits, particularly when they've recently been given refugee status, and also accessing asylum support and problems with asylum support, and particularly around issues in accommodation or accessing asylum support in terms of the subsistence allowance. There are lots of delays in that system, and that can cause significant problems for people. The most increased issue we are seeing at the moment is around housing. That's not unique to our client group. I know across the city, housing has become sort of the #1 key priority for many of the advice agencies. There is a distinct lack of affordable accommodation in Southampton and surrounding areas. And we are seeing a lot of people coming to us who are street homeless or at imminent risk of street homelessness at the moment. And we are working with the council to try and provide as much support as we can to those people. But it is very challenging because there is such limited accommodation provision in the city. We provide advice, as you can see, on a wide range of topics. There are other topics, but we see people on very rarely, so I haven't added them to this slide. One of the things that we do try and do is make sure that we can signpost people on to other services that can also tailor to their needs. And we're part of the Advice in Southampton partnership in the city. So we will refer people into other organisations, for example, Age UK in Southampton, or No Limits, or the Environment Centre, if people need specific advice around particular topics or particular support because of their age or other characteristics. I wanted to mention some of the issues that our clients are facing, particularly when it comes to things that might make them at risk of hate crime and other issues. So the first one is that we've already seen in the city something that we've seen happen in other cities as well, which is the presence of people who call themselves migrant hunters. So basically people who attend Home Office accommodation sites and try to film the residents and provoke a reaction from people at those sites. We have already seen one incident of that in the city, and it's likely to be repeated, unfortunately. There are significant groups of people who are doing this online and sharing information about these sites. And I know from talking to some of the clients we work with who live in the contingency accommodation, it's something they are quite worried about. They're worried about being targeted, and they are fearful of people who might not see asylum seekers being present in the city as a positive thing. We have been had fairly low levels of issues so far, but unfortunately, obviously, the asylum system is quite a political topic and regularly makes the news and provokes very strong reactions. So it is something that unfortunately we may see happen again. And specifically around the contingency accommodation in Southampton, there remains a lot of online chatter on news stories that are not necessarily anything to do with the asylum seekers, but where there has been some, a crime or an issue has happened in the city. On places like Facebook or the local newspaper comment sections, you will frequently see people referring to the names of these contingency accommodation sites and making derogatory comments regarding the people that live in them, and describing them in a way that is very demeaning and unfriendly and very unwelcoming to people. Most of that has remained online thus far, but obviously that could at some point spread into the real world sort of situation. We have had a couple of protest notifications for this city in the past, but nothing of significance. But we are seeing significant issues in other cities that are not far away. For example, in Chichester and other places, there has been significant antagonism between pro and anti-migrant groups in that city, and that's only 30 miles or so up the coast. So it is something we are worried about. Asylum seekers are also not permitted to work, and as I said, people receive about £9 a week asylum support in catered accommodation. A lot of them have been waiting many years for decisions on their cases, and there remains concern that some of them could find themselves ending up in modern slavery or exploitative situations because they have very little. And they have absolutely nothing to do, most of them. We work with other partner organisations to try and find activities and things for people to do. And we're very lucky in this city that people like Solent University and others have come on board to provide activities, so of Saints Foundation, to try and keep people sort of off the streets and busy, to reduce the risk of anybody sort of falling into those situations. But it does remain a concern for us. The big issue we are seeing at the moment, and the thing that is causing us the biggest concerns, is the current situation with the Home Office decisions and the speed of those decisions. The Home Office was set a target by the Prime Minister of clearing the backlog, as they call it, of cases. So that's the people that claimed before June last year of asylum cases by the end of this year. We are seeing that they're making excellent progress on that, and we are pleased that people are getting asylum decisions. But unfortunately, because they are getting decisions at such a volume and speed that we're not used to, and there's no systems to support that, we are seeing people being given decisions at a rate that is not sustainable for the city to be able to continue to support people. Unfortunately, the Home Office is only required to give 7 days written notice of eviction from your asylum accommodation. And because we are finding people are coming to see us with that notice, it's insufficient time for them to secure other accommodation before they are made homeless. So unfortunately, many of the, especially young male clients we're working with, are currently street homeless and looking for accommodation, which is very unaffordable for them, because they are, you know, only able to receive sort of £77 a week in housing allowance through their benefits until they secure employment. It's a very challenging situation. It's something that we're working with the council on a lot. Clear is doing briefing sessions specifically around this topic to clients. We're doing one today, where we're sort of working extra hours to invite people in to understand the accommodation situation in Southampton and other areas. But our main concern at the moment is not only for the welfare and well-being of people who are going to be sleeping on the streets, and we are looking at a sort of increasing number of them, but in addition to that, the fact that they could then continue to be at risk of exploitation, but also having increased number of people sleeping on the streets who to the general public will fit the criteria of foreign nationals, which is something that comments recently were made by politicians regarding people sleeping on the streets or in tents who were not from the UK originally. We are worried that that could cause some tensions in the city, and that could put people at risk of hate crime and other things. It's something we're talking to the council and police about at the moment to make sure that we try and support people to stay as safe as possible. But we unfortunately are expecting a large number of people to be granted refugee status, which should be good news for them, but unfortunately will then mean that a number of weeks later they are likely to end up street homeless. So it's sort of a positive to get your decision followed by an immediate negative of not having anywhere to live, and it is something that remains a concern. The other few things that we are talking to our clients a lot about at the moment is the Illegal Migration Act. Any client that arrived in the UK after the 7th of March has been told by the Home Office their asylum claim will not be processed, because that is when the Illegal Migration Act came into effect. So at the moment, they are being told they could be sent to Rwanda, but obviously that was in the courts last week, so that's not currently going ahead. And they are being told that their asylum claim in this country probably won't be processed. So unfortunately, that just leaves those people in a state of limbo at the moment, and we are just trying to support them the best we can until such time as the government announces what will happen to these people. We've also had a number of people in the city be moved at short notice to the barge in Portland or to army barrack accommodation in the country that's now being used to house asylum seekers. Many of them are afraid of that type of accommodation. It's not something that they were expecting or that they're used to. And it has also caused a lot of people to be very upset on their behalf and want to campaign around that. So that's something we're having lots of conversations about at the moment. We're also seeing lots of questions coming in from people who do have visas to be here. So, for example, the Ukrainians, where those permissions are, running out at some point in the future, and they don't know what will happen to them after that point. So, for example, our Ukrainian guests that we are supporting, their visas start to run out at the beginning of 2025, which, although over a year away, still makes it difficult for people to secure permanent employment or permanent housing. As yet, the government haven't announced what will happen to them if there's an extension to that scheme or if they will be allowed to settle permanently in the UK. And that's meaning that a lot of our Ukrainian guests that we're working with are feeling very unsettled at the moment. That's a different situation to, for example, the Hong Kong clients or those from Afghanistan who've also come over on other schemes, who have been told that at the end of their visa, they will be able to have the right to remain in the UK indefinitely. So different groups are in different situations, which obviously put strain on the services to support them, but also makes it very difficult for people to understand why different countries are being given different support systems and different terms of leave, depending on, situations that in their eyes might seem very similar. The other thing that we are seeing a lot at the moment is, I've been doing this particular job as the advice manager at Clear for just over 2 years. And in that time, the amount of changes we've seen in other countries, particularly Afghanistan, Ukraine, Sudan, now Palestine, is significant. And the impact on the number of clients we're seeing, the number of people fleeing, and the number of people coming to the UK is obviously, for every country that's being affected by something like that, you will see spikes in people arriving in this country. But you will also see people in this country who are settled refugee communities here, desperately worried about people that they might have left behind. For example, we have a large Eritrean community in this country. A lot of the Eritrean young men we'd worked with who've got family overseas had left their family behind in Sudan, which at that time was considered safer. They've then come to this country and been granted refugee status, and they now can't get their family out of Sudan or Eritrea because of the situations in both of those countries. So unfortunately, we are not only dealing with the clients here, but we are trying to support them through our very difficult and challenging situations facing them and their families overseas. And we are seeing quite significant deterioration in the mental health of a lot of our clients because of the situations that are happening in other countries around the world. As I imagine many of you do, I watch a lot of news and I see a lot of what's happening around the world. And then I start thinking about the clients I know in this city and in other cities who will be facing very challenging decisions to make about the future of their families based on news I'm seeing on the television. So we sort of see the impact of that very in a live way within a couple of days in the office, with people coming to inquire about, do we know what the government will do to help people in X country? And unfortunately, systems in this country don't normally work very fast, so it can take some time before there is sort of clear information about what will happen. So during that time, we are supporting quite distressed and upset people. At the moment, we have people who have family trapped in Sudan, family trapped in Palestine. We've got a large Afghan contingent here who are still trying 2 years later to bring family out of Afghanistan under the resettlement schemes. So that takes up a significant amount of time. And also, we know we're not the only people supporting them. I know that a lot of the mosques and churches in the city are trying to offer mental health support to quite a lot of people in those situations too. But that's, part of the work that's not really funded for us. It's just something that on top of seeing people about their immigration letter or their housing issue, we're also having to do quite a significant amount of mental health support on top of that, because unfortunately for our clients, many of their issues can't be seen in isolation. They're part of a much bigger picture facing them and their family. And I think that was all the slides I had to share today. So I'm going to take that off screen sharing. Yeah, so that was sort of an overview, and unless Pete can think of anything that I have missed that I should have added to that situation. But otherwise, I'm sure Pete and I would be happy to answer any questions people have.
Thanks, Nikki. I haven't got anything to add, but yeah, people have got questions. Obviously, they're very much the challenges facing those we're trying to support, but obviously organisational, we're facing the challenges that every other organisation is facing at the moment around funding, around sustainability, around recruitment, with increasing demand. Obviously, the pressure it puts our team under as well, and in terms of ensuring that we put in place processes and ways to care for them as well through it all. So it's it's a challenging time, isn't it, for all of us, I think. But yeah, really good to hear that from Nikki, and good summary of really what we're facing, and particularly Nikki on a day-to-day basis and our learning team as well. But yeah, please ask us any questions.
Sure, I can see you got your hand raised, so yeah, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Nikki and Peter. It was really, really interesting. I didn't know most of the information, but I think it was a very good presentation. Thank you very much for that. I just have a question about the cultural challenges of the refugees that are coming from different countries, and how do you cope with the different backgrounds and different ways of doing things, and how their expectation meets our English culture, and that might cause a lot of frustration, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that I think frustrate people who've come to the UK for the first time, whether that's through they've come here by choice or through necessity. I know that within our English classes, our teachers spend a lot of time talking about life and culture in the UK. It's one of the things that we specifically try and teach people. And part of what we try and do is very much sort of induct people into what it's like to live in the UK. So we are running briefing sessions for people, for example, on housing, and trying to explain to people who've come from 20 different countries what the housing system is in this country and how it works for families. People might have expectations around multi-generational households and things from their country, which is very different to maybe how as someone who's lived in the UK my whole life would have expected to see the housing system. We do find that a lot of our clients get support from people from within their community who are in the city and surrounding areas. And it's one of the fantastic things about having a settled refugee community in the city, is that there are people who have now gone all the way through to get British citizenship, who've come from many of the countries that our clients have come from. And a lot of them will come with clients to appointments, or will support them and help translate and things. And we'll reassure them that they've been through this process too. And there's good examples, I had somebody in the office today who was interpreting for someone else who's just got refugee status, and the person who was interpreting has now got indefinite leave to remain as a refugee, and could say, no, it was like, she's asking about these questions, and she was able to say, but I've told her, no, I did this too, it's normal, it's fine. So it's good to have that sort of settled population in the city. And also that we set some expectations, and people might be used to dealing with, specifically wanting to deal with a woman or a man, or wanting to have a friend to interpret, or desperately not wanting a friend to interpret because they don't want to share their struggles with someone from their own community. So there's lots of sort of intermingling dynamics that we have to navigate. And we try and do it the best we can. I can't say that we can always get it right, but we learn from our clients, and we will ask them for feedback. What we see is that at our drop-ins, originally, a lot of people will start and sit around a table with people from their own country, which I understand. If I moved to a different country, I would be looking for people who I could understand the easiest. But what we do then see is, for example, at the drop-in on a Friday at the games table, you will have people from 6 or 7 different countries playing a game together. At the hotels, the contingency accommodation, you will see people from other countries, coming and saying, oh, no, this person's new. I don't speak his language, but he's new, and bringing people to us. So, people start to build that cross-cultural thing, which is really nice. But it takes time. The systems are not necessarily friendly either. So sometimes people are slightly confused by why they have to do things a certain way. But we get there eventually, I think.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. That's great.
Oh, Sam, I think you're on.
Sorry. I think, well, I see, Kitty, you've got your hand raised. I think we've got a question on the chat. So yeah, yeah, Mina has said, hello, what are the main mental health issues among asylum seekers and migrants?
So a lot of the clients we're working with specifically have not chosen to leave. You know, no one chooses to be a refugee. It's something that happens to people because of a circumstance. So it very much depends on where they come from and what the situation is that they're facing. So some people are coming from very individualized circumstances. So for example, someone whose sexuality is an issue in the country that they come from might have very personal trauma around something that's happened to them as people in their country found out about their sexuality, and they might be dealing with trauma because of assaults or trauma because of, you know, family dynamics and other things that have come out. Other people have fled, you know, literal war zones, and have witnessed things that I have only ever seen on television, and I hope I only ever see on television, because from the bits I hear that it sounds horrific. And some of those people are dealing with quite complex PTSD and other things. We see a lot of medical reports from doctors, and a lot of our clients are on medication to help them sleep and to help them cope with some of what they faced. And we try and connect them up with other services, for example, places like Steps to Wellbeing and other things. And Pete recently bid for some funding to try a counselling project specifically for Ukrainian clients, where they could access counselling in Ukrainian language, because obviously to access any talking therapy in your own language is always going to be preferable than doing it through an interpreter, although the interpreted services that are available, we have supported them by letting them use our offices at times as well. So it's a complete mix of mental health issues, you know, obviously everything that the general population would have, plus the added, you know, risks of whatever it is that they have fled, and understanding that for many of them, the fleeing and the journey could have been just as traumatic as what they were fleeing from. A lot of our clients have been trafficked or forced into modern slavery. So even when they've reached the UK, maybe they've not been safe. And a lot of, for example, the women have faced sexual violence. A lot of the men have faced very physical violence. We have a lot of people carrying a lot of physical injuries as well. So it can be a vast range of mental health issues. And unfortunately, there's probably never going to be enough support for people who face that, because there just isn't enough support for anyone in this, you know, this country. I know mental health waiting lists are quite long for everybody. So unfortunately, we have to just try and support people the best we can and connect them up with other services where possible. But yeah, it's a complicated picture.
I just add on that as well. I mean, we're very keen in terms of training the team. So all our teachers have gone through trauma-informed practice around teaching English, so that they're, and a lot of other training as well, but so they can kind of recognise some of the impact of what people have experienced in terms of how they then deliver the teaching and the work they do as well.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Nina. Yeah, I'm aware, Kitty, you had a question, so feel free to ask.
My one, I guess it kind of leads on from that slightly, but you mentioned that a lot of the asylum seekers that you come across get their refugee status and they face homelessness. And I was just wondering what kind of methods do you guys use to prepare for that? Because I guess it's another whole mental health strain that they'll be facing that's leading on from a journey that they've already taken. So I was just wondering what you guys did.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say, although people getting status and being homeless isn't unheard of, up until recently it was quite rare, because the number of decisions we were seeing was manageable for the council to potentially offer them. There's the 28-day sort of safe place to stay emergency accommodation, which was kind of keeping people off the streets. Unfortunately, we've massively outstripped that supply at the moment, so people are now street homeless. What we are trying to do is preempt, you know, almost warn people and prepare them before they get the decision. So a lot of the conversations I have with clients at the contingency accommodation is to explain to them what they will have to do when they get status, because a lot of them will, you know, and we say, if you don't get status, we will have a different conversation with you and continue to support you. But if you do get status, this is what you will need to do, so that people come and access our services and other services as quickly as possible. Because if the quicker we know about them, the more options that they might have. The council in Southampton is doing its very best to keep up with demand at the moment, but it is difficult. And we know that people are really facing some challenging situations. We are trying to adapt our services as best we can to cope. We are working with, you know, our colleagues at the other charities who run the drop-in with us and things like that, to try and make sure that, you know, simple things like having warm food available at our Friday drop-in, having, you know, sleeping bags in the office for people who are, you know, absolutely run out of all other options. And we are working with charities like Refugees at Home, who provide temporary hosting in people's houses, to try and see if we can increase the number of options in the city. Most of the people who we see are facing homelessness have access to money through universal credit and benefits and want to work, but they just physically don't have enough time to find somewhere in the limited time. And it's about trying to support people and make sure they know that places like ours and the Homeless Day Centre and other services are safe places they can go, even if it's just to sit inside for a couple of hours and have a cup of tea and just, you know, rest before they then have to go on to whatever else they're going to have to deal with. And we are seeing that more and more at the moment, unfortunately. There's no quick solution, and we're just trying to work together as best we can. We have a regular meeting with the council, which we're looking at, you know, what things we can do. And we are working primarily with No Limits in the city centre, because we have a lot of our clients are quite young. The predominant age group of the males we're working with is 18 to 30, I'd say. So a lot of them are eligible for No Limit services as well, because they work with people up to 25. So we are trying to work together as close as we can to just make sure that between us, we have eyes on people and we know where they are, when we last saw them, and can try and, you know, we're phoning them regularly to check in with them, make sure we're, you know, keeping an eye, and ideally trying to support them and keep them motivated to keep looking for accommodation, whilst at the same time trying to make sure they've not fallen into exploitation or something that is more concerning to us. We have now started to see people who have been homeless finding rooms, and you know, we are seeing people coming in with tenancy agreements and things who have, you know, after a couple of days have looked massively better, because they have obviously now got some security, at least for 6 months. But it is that intervening month or two period that is proving really challenging. And unfortunately, we don't have any magic solution to that at the moment. We are just trying to be an open door for people as much as we can. But obviously that puts a strain on our service as well that we weren't expecting. We expect this level of demand to continue until at least February or March. And then we don't know what the Home Office will do with the next batch of people they're going to process. So we're just trying to keep up as best we can until then.
Thank you, Nikki.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, have we got any other questions for Nikki or Pete or today, or any just comments on what we've been talking about?
I guess if I could just ask a question, please. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Yeah, it's been really informative. Thanks. Yeah, it's really been good to see. I guess, Nikki, what's probably your biggest concern? What's your main focus? What kind of keeps you awake of everything? It sounds like it's quite a lot to take on board there, but which one do you think is the number one?
So at the moment, I have two sort of linked biggest concerns, and it all comes around people's decisions. We are seeing the decision rate from the Home Office, as I said, has gone up, which is positive. But the imminent homelessness is the thing that at the moment is keeping me awake at night more than anything else. That is the one that concerns me, because we've never been in a position before of having to go home knowing quite so many people are outside, and that's a very difficult position for me and the team to be in. But the linked part to that is the clients that are in the system that at the moment there's no plans to ever give them a decision, and to leave people in limbo with no, as we, that we don't know what's happening with Rwanda. The government is going to try and put that through, but at the moment they're saying they're not processing these cases, and to leave people in a system with no end, they don't know what will happen, just leaves people ripe for mental health issues to grow, but also risk of people disappearing off into exploitation or different environments where they may not be safe. And if you are a young person who's fought your way over from wherever you've come from and you've made it here, and then to be told you just have to wait and we may never look at your case, that is very detrimental to people's mental health. And at the moment they're seeing their friends getting decisions and they're thinking mine will come, and I think the reality will start to sink in at some point that we don't know whether theirs will come, and I think the impact on their mental health is going to be significant. And I don't know how we're going to deal with that, because we don't know yet what the Home Office will do with those people. They don't have the detention capacity or removal capacity to deal with them. So at the moment they are just in limbo, which is a really sad situation for people to be in long term.
Yeah, and is that everyone that's coming since March?
Yeah, that's what they're saying at the moment. Yeah,
continuing to grow. Yeah.
So it's a really, a weird situation where we know that what the government plans are, they can't implement yet. So we just, at the moment, people are not having decisions being made at all. And it's once it gets to a year and you've not had a decision, that's when people really start to suffer. So at the moment, I think they're still in that period of maybe maybe something will happen on my case. But I think when we start to trip into next year and things like that, I think people will start to realize that we don't know what will happen on their case either. And I think that's quite hard for them to get their head round. At the moment, we are trying to focus on things like, well, let's get your English better. Let's, come to the football group, come to this,
like you're saying, keep them busy and stuff. Yeah, occupy
because
the mind, if nothing else.
Yeah, if we have no answers at the moment, the most important thing is that we're straight with them that we don't know. But at the moment, here are the things you can do. And you can be part of the community, and a lot of them volunteer for charities like Scratch and things like that, and you can get out and you can do things, and then you have people in your corner on your, people you can talk to, and that helps. And at the moment, that's all we can focus people on, because we just don't know.
Yeah, let's hope there's some clarity pretty soon.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great, thank you for that. Have we got any other questions, comments at all from anyone else?
I think, is it Arzia? Apologies if I've pronounced your name.
Yeah, sorry, I was just typing as the gentleman was speaking, because I don't want to disturb. But yeah, I would love to catch up with you, because we're literally, I learned last minute that we were having this meeting, so I had to rush out of another meeting to attend, because that's exactly what I was speaking to my manager up until about 5:30 last night, about how we can improve better access to mental health services, to trauma support. We had one of the asylum seekers come in our meeting last night, and he was actually saying that, all of the things that you've literally just been talking about for the last hour, all of those things is what he was saying, access to language skills, access to, better homes, better food, all of that stuff. And it's given me so much information to go back to work with tomorrow. But yes, I would love to catch up with you and discuss it further, because I've got the two hats as well. So I've got Phoenix Rising as well, which again, trauma support, all of that stuff that people struggle with as refugees, as asylum seekers, as homeless people on the streets and so on. There's so much there to unpick.
I know that quite a few of our clients have accessed support through people like Solent Mind and things like that. We'd be more than happy to talk to you at any point. If I can put my email address in the chat, but also if you just go onto our website, you can, there's a message box on the website. You'd be welcome to just drop a message, and that will reach Pete and I. But yeah, we'd be more than happy to talk to any other organisations working in the city and things like that about working together. We want what's best for the client group we are working with, and our resources are limited to provide as much as we can do, but we always want to work with other partner organizations to make sure that we're as joined up as possible in the support we can offer people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is basically, everybody working together to provide a holistic service, because, there's so many different aspects to it that, one organisation cannot do it all. And I think, citywide, we all have to come together to work together for a better future for everybody.
Yeah, and tomorrow there is an event at Solent University, which is the sort of launch event of something called the Southampton Sanctuary Network.
Yeah.
And there will be more coming out of that, but Clear is one of the, well, City Life and Clear is one of the sort of launch partners of that. But to try and bring together under an umbrella some of the organisations that are working in this area to look at, what we could do. I mean, we do a lot of work, for example, with Southampton City Libraries. I had not used a library since I was a child, but now that I have seen how much the libraries are doing, and I know a lot of our clients are going there, especially to access internet, access other services, but also taking their children and getting, help learning English through helping their children read books and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's, fantastic to see different services working together that, for the benefit of clients. So we're always happy to be part of those kind of conversations.
Yes, definitely. I mean, one of the things that I'm working on is actually getting together a database specifically for asylum seekers and refugees of the different organisations, because there's a lot of grassroots organisations that that people don't necessarily know about much, and each of those things they could help with, and obviously that they need participants to help with their causes as well, and so on. So to be able to try and marry the two together and try and get people in touch with each other and stuff, and I hope to try and complete like a database for that, so that should really be helpful, I think.
Yeah. Well, Pete and I have both put our email addresses in the chat. If anyone wants to follow up with us, you'd be more than welcome to. But yeah, otherwise we're on social media or our website. Feel free to send a message and it will reach us at some point. It'll go through someone else first, but Pete or I will find out about that.
Thank you very much.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for all your questions. There's still we still have quite a bit of time left, so if there is time to ask other questions if you wanted to make any other comments. But if there aren't any, then yeah, as Nikki said, you've got Nikki and Pete's email to contact them should any questions arise afterwards. So before we close today's session, I'm just going to give you a brief sort of introduction to our hate crime network, who we've obviously set up today's meeting. So I think it makes sense just to give you a little bit of in context about us, and then we will also we'll let you know about upcoming sessions. I will, before I do that, I've just seen that we have got another question from Chloe. I can answer it in a minute, but I feel while you're here, Nikki, so Chloe said, what do you feel we can do to empower refugees and asylum seekers to report hate crimes or incidents?
Yeah, it's a hard one because a lot of our clients are very afraid of authorities, particularly the police, and worry about the implications for their own immigration cases and things if they report things, even if they have been the victim of things. And I can understand why that might be the case. One of the things that I know that was done in Southampton, for example, when the Afghan contingency hotel was here, was that the police came and presented with interpreters to that group about crime and hate crime and keeping yourself safe and what was expected and what was okay in the UK, so that people understood, because a lot of the clients might come from countries where things we might see as a hate crime may not be even recognised by them as a crime. They might not see it as that. Because due to how the police and how the authorities are set up in their country and what is considered acceptable or not, some of the things we might see as a hate crime might not have ever come across them before, or it's just not something that is talked about. So we found that we had Ahmed Sasso, the community police officer, came to the hotel where the Afghans were living at that time and did a presentation with an interpreter. That was really useful. We have also provided information, for example, to the Ukrainian guests on keeping yourself safe and what it means to be safe in the UK and what that looks like. And basically trying to reassure them about the sort of systems and processes in this country. What I do know from talking to clients, for example, when we had the incident recently with the so-called migrant hunter, was that a lot of clients just wanted to forget about it. They didn't want to raise it. They didn't want to lodge anything because they couldn't get away from the fact that they thought it would be on their record that they made a fuss. And I think that is a barrier that takes a long time to break down. We do have clients come and tell us things sometimes. We are a hate crime reporting centre. We have had hate crimes reported through us before. But I think it takes a long time to build up the trust of some of the people we're working with to A, give us that information, and B, then be willing to report that on. We keep trying, we will keep working on it, and we keep making sure we try and get information that's accessible to them in other languages. But it is, you know, hard. We have seen recently a few clients have told us when they've been looking for accommodation that perhaps some of the messages they've had received from potential landlords have been not positive when the landlord has seen their name or their ID card, and, you know, maybe, you know, I can't comment on the intentions of the person who sent that message, but those messages have been perceived as hateful and not very pleasant. And it's about trying to reassure people that that's not okay, and that they can report that, and it's, you know, that's not on their record. It's not a, you know, they haven't done anything wrong. But yeah, it's a long process. A lot of our clients will take a long time before they can get into that place of trusting the system in that sense. But we will keep trying. I think that's the best thing we can do at the moment.
Right, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Chloe, for the question as well. Okay, so yes, I will start. Yes, I will just share my screen and show some slides about our network. It won't take long, but I think it'd be good to just bear with me. Okay, hopefully you can all see this. Okay, so yes, that's basically, as I was saying, I am my name's Sam Waddington. I'm the coordinator for the Southampton and South Hampshire Hate Crime Network. So what we are essentially is a kind of partnership group, or network of we've now got over 60 organisations across the city. So these are community organisations and statutory groups as well. So including Clear Project who've been presenting today. So all of us will represent all the different communities within Southampton, different protected characteristics, and the protected characteristics that can make you a victim of hate crime. So being race, sexual orientation, transgender identity, religion, and disability. So all our groups represent those different characteristics, and that's all across the city. So basically, yeah, we're working together to help tackle hate crime by kind of trying to reduce incidents and just making sure people can get the support they need, and that includes the refugee and asylum seeker population as well, amongst many other communities. So yeah, we're all working together to most of us voluntarily to make sure they are supported. We've got a system of third-party hate crime reporting centres, which many of our groups are, and these means that these are places across the city where people can go to for advice and support if they've been affected by hate crime or feel they've been affected. So yeah, that's essentially, it's that system that has been really beneficial to the city, and obviously make sure people can get supported who might have a fear of going to the police or reporting to the authorities, and would rather report to us straight away. So it's it's basically about making sure while hate crime is a big issue and quite a serious issue, that the support is in place. But it's also more to it than that. Through things like these sessions today, we're trying to raise awareness about the different communities to kind of bring communities together, which is what it's about, as we've kind of discussed the importance of in today's session. So we're constantly trying to bring communities together, whether that be sessions like this or whether when we've got on workshops, even when we try and reach out to young people, that's really important too, so they know about the seriousness of hate crime, how it affects people, and how people can get support. Because we want to try and encourage everyone, the whole community, to know that hate crime is not acceptable, and try and look out for it and know how they can support people and report it. And all of this links into our you'll see there, Love Don't Hate. Love Don't Hate is our campaign to basically tackle hate crime and then try and positively celebrate diversity, to kind of counteract the negativity that surrounds hate crime. And at the bottom you'll see that's our reporting centre logo for the reporting centres in Southampton. So if you want more information about what we do, want to get involved, or you're a group yourself or know of groups that might be interested in joining our network, then feel free to email myself or my colleague Akib as well, who is our Mohammed, who is our administrator for our network. And we work at Spectrum Centre for Independent Living, which supports disabled people in Southampton, and was one of the founding members of the network. That's where the network is run from. But you can find out. You can call us as well. We'll use our website, Facebook page, and then we'll be happy to help answer any questions, or see how we can get involved. See how you can get involved, or even if you've got to know about hate crime, then get in touch with us as well, because we always we want to know about any issues you've any sort, anything that's been experienced that is even remotely to do with hate crime. The more that gets reported, the better it is. So that's just a little bit about us, and hopefully that's helpful if you didn't already know about our network. So the next thing is just to let you know about our next awareness sessions. So we have one next week actually, which is on Thursday from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. That'll be led by another of our members, Yellow Door, that support victims of domestic and sexual abuse, and they'll be just talking about their perspective on diversity and inclusion, the importance of it, what that actually means in a practical sense. So that will be should be quite informative as well. And as I said there's a number of spaces left, so if you want to register for that session, then please use the link to do so. Great to see you there if possible. And there'll be many more that be arranged for next year, which hasn't happened yet, but you will, now that we've obviously got your emails, you'll be informed about those as they happen. Like today's session, I'm sure they'll have some useful information there. So this presentation will be sent to you all, and alongside Nikki's one, and we'll also make sure that the recording of this session will be will be published. So when that happens, we'll make sure all of you receive the link to that as well to view it, in case you want to for the future. But that's essentially the information that I wanted to go through. yeah, I'm happy to take any. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions on my content if there are any. If not, then obviously my email address will be in the PowerPoint that you can use should you have any further questions. Okay, no. Well, yeah, in that case, then I think we've come to a close today. But yeah, many thanks to everyone for attending. Yeah, obviously it's yeah, as I've said before, it's you know, I know it's not always easy to come along to these things with busy schedules and that. So yeah, yes, we do appreciate it, and it makes it worthwhile when there's people who want to find out different information. But most of all, yeah, thank you to Nikki and to Pete as well for coming today and giving that information. It was yeah, I think it was very informative, and I certainly learned a number of things that I wasn't aware of, important stuff. So yeah, really do appreciate that. And yeah, yeah, we'll let everyone get on with the rest of their day. But yeah, please feel free to ask further questions that you have for myself or Nikki or Pete afterwards. But yeah, thank you everyone for attending. Yeah, do appreciate it. So yeah, okay, I'll leave everyone to it. Thanks then.
Sam.
Thank
Right,
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks everyone.